Hello, everyone. My name is Giovanna James, and I'm the lead counselor here at Plano Senior High School. As counselors, oftentimes we're asked by families, parents, students, where do I even begin when it comes to this college admissions process? There's so much information out there from websites and books and news articles and family and friends. Knowing exactly what you need for your student can feel like an overwhelming process. So what I'd like to do is give you just a quick primer with some basics on how to navigate what can, again, sometimes seem like an overwhelming process. Once you watch this video, then I encourage you to head over to our website where we have lots of other videos and resources and files that go even more in depth as you navigate the college admissions. And then lastly, I encourage you to reach out to your counselor. Counselors here are a wealth of knowledge about all the options that could be available to your son or daughter after high school. So, where do we begin? Things this year are going to look a little different, and that's okay. One of the things that we want to make sure that families feel encouraged about is, even though there are some new things with college admissions, much of the process is still very much the same, and the steps that we've taken before are still the steps that we're going to take now. As you are exploring the different schools that you may be looking at, you may see terms like test optional, holistic review, and all of that. Your counselor can help you with what that may mean for your student, but just know that even though things are a little different, the overall process is still very much the same, and the steps that we'll take and how we'll approach it is the same. More than anything, it's important that students find their fit. I'm often asked by families, Miss James, what's a good college for my son or daughter to go to? And there really is no one size fits all answer to that. There are thousands of colleges and universities across the nation, and that includes four-year universities that are large, 50,000 students, all the way down to a small school that may be just about the size of Plano Senior High. You have four-year institutions, two-year institutions. There are even career and technical trade schools that can give industry-based certificates that may only take 6 or 9 months. So there are lots of options. And what I encourage you to do is really sit down and think about what is the goal in all of this. Start with the end in mind, and that'll help you to find that fit that's right for your family. So I use the term college throughout our videos and our talks kind of as an umbrella term for any education that's pursued after high school. Whether that is a four-year university, whether it's a big school, small school, a career certificate program, all schools are going to require certain things as part of the process of applying and being accepted. Most schools are going to require an application, a transcript, which is a record of all of the grades earned in high school, test scores, or something in lieu of testing, because we do have more and more schools that are going test optional. And what that means is they are not requiring standardized test scores like an SAT or an ACT. However, they may want something else in its place. And then most schools also require an application fee as part of the process. Some schools may even then ask for the student to write essays, for the student to submit a student activities resume, for them to submit letters of recommendation, and for them to even do an interview. If you're applying to an art school, you may even have a portfolio, or if it's like a dance school, you may have an audition. So there are lots of different parts of the admissions package depending on the school. One thing that is important for all of them is that schools must receive all requested information by the posted deadlines. It doesn't all have to come at once. So the student may do their application, and then they have their transcript sent, and then they send their test scores, and they pay their application fee. It could come in pieces, but it all has to be there by that posted deadline. Plano ISD has provided for all students a online tool to use in the college application process. It's called Naviance. Students can access Naviance through their web desk. They can also access it directly by going to the link student.naviance.com/Plano Senior High School. The students already have an account. They do not need to sign up for a new account. So when they go ahead to log in, they'll click student and then continue with Clever, and then they'll use their Google Classroom information to log on. On our website, we've got more in-depth guides for how to access and navigate this program. What's great about it is that it does have lots of useful tools to help students and families in both the process of researching colleges and universities, as well as the actual application, transcript, letter of recommendation process. Again, we have other videos on our website that go into more depth about Naviance specifically. I just want to make sure that you're aware that this tool is there. If you are a senior that's in the application process right now, then this is the website that you will use to request transcripts and to request recommendation letters. In order for colleges to know who you are and know that you're interested, you have to complete an application. Here in Texas, there is a standardized college application that's called Apply Texas. And Apply Texas allows students to complete one application and then submit that to the over 30 public colleges and universities in the state of Texas, as well as some private institutions that accept it also. I highly encourage every one of you to set up an Apply Texas account. Chances are, no matter where you're going to go, you're going to be considering some of our Texas colleges and universities. And if you set up this account and start working on the application, then once you decide exactly where you're going to apply, you just log in and submit it to that school and pay that school's application fee. Another application that is common is the Common application. This one is primarily used for private and out-of-state colleges and universities. It works just like Apply Texas. It's a one-stop shop for completing your application. You go to the website, you set up your account, log on, complete all the information. This one can be submitted to nearly 1,000 colleges and universities across the nation. So if you know that you're going to be looking at private or some out-of-state schools, then I would encourage you to also set up a Common App account. And as is the case with Apply Texas, you can find more in-depth resources as to exactly how to go through those steps. Then there are some schools that have their own specific application. For example, Collin College, which is a popular option for a lot of our students in both starting their education or for students who are looking for specific career training programs. We have a lot of students who choose to go to Collin College once they finish at Plano Senior High School. Collin has its own application that's separate from those large consolidated applications. And so you may run into that as well, that schools have their own and they don't use one of those standardized applications. So the next thing that a school is going to want from you is some type of test score. Now, again, we mentioned this before, that right now there are a lot of schools that are going test optional, meaning you don't have to submit scores. Perhaps you did not have an opportunity to take an SAT or ACT, or you would just choose not to. Now, one of the benefits here at Plano Senior High is that all of our juniors are given the opportunity to take an actual SAT that they can submit to colleges and university in March of their junior year. So if you're currently a senior, then you should have an SAT score that you can submit to schools. If you're a junior, once you get to March of junior year, you're going to take an SAT with us, and then you'll be able to submit that directly to colleges and universities as part of the application process. If you would like to look at taking perhaps the other college entrance exam, the ACT, or if you're interested in taking the SAT again, you can go to either of their websites. As is the case with college admissions, there's always a deadline. So you'll want to make sure that you register for those tests ahead of that deadline. When we send your transcripts, which is your record of all the grades that you've earned in high school, so that includes any work that you did at Vines or Clark, or any middle school work that you did that was for high school credit, like Algebra 1 or Spanish. When we send that transcript, your test scores are not included. So you have to send those separately through the SAT or through the ACT. When you take the SAT here with us on campus, you're able to select 4 schools to automatically send that test score to. Otherwise, you'll need to log into those websites and go into your account and select the schools you want to submit your scores to. The scores aren't sent, it's not an instantaneous process, so you will want to pay attention to those due dates and make sure that you're sending that score several weeks ahead of the due date so that there's time for the school to receive it. Now, there is another type of testing that your school may require, and it is referred to as the TSI or TSIA. It is required for all Texas public colleges and universities. Now, some students are able to submit their SAT or ACT scores instead. Otherwise, you may be asked to take the TSI. The difference with this is that it is not an entrance exam. The TSI does not determine whether or not you get into their college. It's used to place students in the appropriate level of classes for that first year. It determines what level of math or what level of English class you're ready to take. When you get to college, again, you may be exempt from this requirement based on your SAT or your ACT scores. If you are interested in this, Collin College offers the TSI for all students to take, and we also host TSIs here on campus in the spring. And then there's other documentation that you might be asked to submit. You might be asked to write essays. You may be asked to submit a resume. A student activity resume is an overview of the things you've done in high school that aren't on your transcript, your extracurricular activities, your clubs and organizations, if you had a job outside of school, if you volunteered, all that stuff goes on your student activities resume. You may also be asked to submit letters of recommendation from your counselor or your teacher. We have other videos, again, on our website that go into more detail about the process of things like letters of recommendation and essays and such. As is the case with any of this, if you have questions or you need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out to your counselor. Above all else, the purpose of your application is to tell your story. Who are you? What unique things do you bring as you are looking to become a prospective student at that college or university? What do you want to learn or contribute outside of yourself? What do you care about? Have you overcome hardship? And if not, that's okay. You don't want to manufacture something or overplay things, but it's important that the school get to see who you are besides just the numbers on the page. And that's what those things like the essays and the letter of recommendations can do for you. When an essay question is asked, you want to answer what is asked. Those questions are written as a way to screen for specific criteria. So if it asks something specific, please answer that thing. And self-advocacy is key. The college wants to know not only are you an intelligent, smart young man or woman, but can you tell your story? Can you advocate for yourself? That's important. And last among our topics today are financial aid and scholarships. Now, we are going to have a whole evening dedicated to financial aid and scholarships. Keep a lookout on our website and in your e-news for when that happens. But just to give a brief overview, there are multiple ways that you can get assistance with paying for your college education. A student may choose to borrow money in the form of loans. They may receive a grant, which is often income-based money that does not have to be paid back. There are scholarships that are generally awarded based on merit, something the student has done, such as grades or test scores or athletics. And then a student can even work through college on campus or off, depending on the situation. You can check the college's websites for additional financial aid and scholarship applications. Some schools have a separate application for financial aid and scholarships outside of their general application for admission. And then lastly, we do keep a scholarship database on our website and in Naviance that is being currently updated. It usually starts getting updated in the fall through the spring. So you can keep checking back. If there doesn't seem like there's a lot of scholarships right now, keep looking, because as we get that information, we add it. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and it is kind of the first stop for any type of aid that you might be interested in, whether it is loans, grants, scholarships, or work study. That will become available October 1st of your senior year. And if students, you're definitely going to need your parents' help in completing the FAFSA. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to your counselor and we can direct you to resources to get help. So there are some things that if you're a senior that you can work on this fall as you go through the college admission process. Go ahead and log into that program we talked about, Naviance, and update your email address. You want to add some schools to your list in Naviance. Even if you're thinking that you're going to go to Collin College, that still needs to be in your list so that we can send those transcripts for you. Get started on those applications, apply taxes, Common App, etc. You're going to request your transcripts and complete the FAFSA. Then you may have some additional steps depending on the schools you're applying to. You may want to register for an SAT or an ACT and have those scores sent. If you are using the Common application, then you're going to do something called matching your Common App and your Naviance account so that we can send documents on your behalf. We've got some videos on our website that go into detail about how to do that. You can request recommendation letters, and if you need a recommendation from your counselor, you can complete a counselor recommendation packet. Again, I got more information about that for you to check out. And I can't stress this part enough. I know that this process may seem like there's a lot of steps and you don't want to miss something, you don't want to forget something. If you have any questions, big or small, reach out to your counselor. If one of us doesn't have the specific answer, then we know how to direct you to the resource that can get you that answer. So now I encourage you to keep exploring our website, and there are other resources that will go into more depth about the various steps of this process. We are so happy to help you guys as you work through this final step in your education, and we look forward to hearing from you as you go through the process. Bye, guys.